All right, next I'd like to introduce Chuck Payne. Chuck Payne, Chuck Payne is a Republican that was first elected to serve as state senator for the 54th district in January of 2017. Senator Payne serves as vice chairman of the Senate State and Local Government Operations Committees, ex officio of the Senate Public Safety Commission, secretary of the State Finance Committee, secretary of the Senate Higher Education Committee, and secretary of the Senate State Institution and Property Committee. Senator Payne also serves as chairman of the Finance Subcommittee on issues pertaining to ad valorem tax. Not much going on, right? No. Senator Payne served for 4 years from 84 to 88 in the Army and in the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. It was during this time he met his love of his life, Angie Sellers, and they were married in January of 1988. The same year, they moved back to Dalton, and Senator Payne began his 30-year career of public service to troubled youth and their families with the Georgia Department of Juvenile Justice. Senator Payne retired from the Department of Juvenile Justice with 30 years of service on October 31st, 2016. Senator Payne has always maintained his affinity for working with youth. In his 30 years with the Department of Justice, he helped a countless number of kids who found themselves on the wrong side of the law, and many give him credit to helping him turn their lives around. Senator Payne has volunteered to coach Little League sports for both boys and girls, having coached basketball, softball, baseball, football over the course of many years. Senator Payne also has been very involved in civic efforts over the past 28 years. He served as chairman of the Whitfield County Republican Party throughout the years of 97 to 2015 and 2013 to 2016. He was also elected among his peers to serve as vice president of both the Georgia 9th Congressional District Republican Party and the Georgia 14th District Volunteer Efforts Republican Party 2010 to 2013. Throughout the 28 years of volunteer effort, principle above politics has remained the focus of his effort in building consensus in the conservative ideal and principle across North Georgia, devoting the balance of his time to his family and service of his faith. Senator Payne and his wife Angie have 2 children, son Chaz Payne and daughter Heather Johnson, and son-in-law Daniel Johnson. In March 2019, their family welcomed the birth of their first grandchild. I'm honored to have Chuck come speak with us today. Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, Ricky. Move this up a little bit if I can. It's an honor to be here and speak to y'all today. I just I don't have a whole lot of time, but one committee I've had added to that is I'm now serving as ex officio on Appropriations, Senate Appropriations Committee too. So I've done very well since being there. I don't know if somebody evidently likes me, and maybe it's my work ethic. You know, I said there's workhorses and then there's show horses. And it's oftentimes the workhorses are the ones that put you to work. And so I'm thankful every time I get another opportunity to serve in another capacity. Just to kind of look back as a recap on this year, I will just tell you it has been a crazy year for everybody. And as I like to remind people, I love history. And the reason I love history is because, you look throughout history and realize, it was literally only the hope of people that carried them through tough times in our nation and in our past. And I have seen that same hope rise to the surface in all this. And as I was saying back in May, when we were still in the crisis stage of all the COVID stuff, that, the county officials and the state officials and the city officials, we were all flying by the seat of our pants because none of us had ever dealt with anything like this before in our lifetimes. But it was such a joy that, we were all working together. And so actually, after all of that was said and done, I scheduled a conference call with the 4 counties that's in the 54th district and their county leadership and their city leadership, and a lot of clergymen too. And just, wanted to make sure that as we move from the crisis stage to the recovery stage, that we all stayed on that same page, that, we were all in this together, and we're going to have to, our budgets were all busted, but the only way we were going to get through this was together. On June 27th, I'll just tell you, looking at this year and what I personally had experienced on June 27th is a Saturday, and I looked at my wife and I was literally overcome with emotion, and I just said, I feel like today's the first day I've had off this year. Because from January to the March 13th, we're in session. You plan for that. It's a crazy, long hour days and long weeks and fast pace and everything else. And you're trying to move your legislation through the legislative processes, but then all of a sudden March 13th came and we suspended. And so then you go from that to, and at the time we were literally at record low unemployment in our state. You know, the economy was booming, you know, the private sector was booming, everybody was doing well. And so we just were, you know, we were already working on the budget and appropriations committee. By March, we were already, you know, that we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's on the budget for, you know, for the coming year, because with projections based on the previous year. And so then March 13th comes, and that was a very strange time, because literally we went, the lieutenant governor, we took a break in the Senate that afternoon, and he came back an hour later and announced that we were going to finish the day's business, and then would be suspended indefinitely until we got on the other side of this COVID crisis. And so then I went from the COVID crisis to coming home. I mean, from the session to coming home, and I told everybody, so for 8 weeks I was trapped. I was on the phone 14 hours a day with constituents calling me all day long, and it was just, I said, it's amazing how 30 years of being a juvenile probation officer and working with 15-year-olds had prepared me for that time, because it's not, I don't mean that's disrespect, but just literally dealing with anger and fear that so many, you know, kids have, that they're having trouble dealing with at that age. And then to be in that position 14 hours a day, that's always calling me every day, was either anger or fear was on the other end of those calls. But we got through it, and as I said, we moved from that. And then, of course, I also had a primary challenge, and during that very same time, so that just added on top of everything and made it a little tougher. But I just kind of had to step away from the campaign for a while and stay focused on what people elected me to do. And that was, you know, so I stayed at home and I stayed on the phone 14 hours a day and helping. I literally, that was the benefit to me, was when you get those calls, people just thanking you for taking the time, because you helped them to work out the problems with the Department of Labor or some state agency that they were having difficulty with during that time, for necessities of life at the time. It was literal necessities. And then, of course, from that time, we also had a tornado rip through North Murray County. And so I found myself for a week, 7 14-hour days right after, in North Murray County, cutting trees and off of houses and trying to get people, you know, back in their homes. And that was a very, very tough time. And then, of course, the governor was brave enough to step out on a limb and say, we're opening Georgia back up. And I commend him highly for what he did. Georgia was, at the same time, you got to think about this, and I know we don't really consider this much in Northwest Georgia, but our number one industry in our state, our money maker for the state, is still the agriculture. And so at that time, you think 1st of April, we had product on the vine that needed to move, but it wasn't moving because we were shut down. So literally, in order to help that in our number one industry to get moving, we had to open the state back up. On the other side of that coin too, is Georgia has a very high percentage of hourly paid employees. In 2 months' time, from March to May, we spent $2.2 billion in unemployment claims. And we were running through the rainy day fund as faster than you could even fathom. And there was just no way possible we could sustain that as a state. And so the governor made the absolute right call to put the protocols in place that we had, a responsible manner, and and we've done very well. And now Georgia, I laugh and tell people, I said, literally just within a couple of weeks' time, Governor Kemp was the craziest man in the country for opening us up too soon in a lot of people's eyes in the national media. And 3 weeks later, we became the model for the other states who are all looking at us and saying, okay, what is Georgia doing and how are they doing this? And so it was good to be part of that process. And then, of course, after that, we went back into session in the last 11 days of June. And so from Monday through Saturday, we were in session on 1 week, 6 straight days. And then we took Sunday off and we came back in for the last final days and pretty much had to completely reconfigure the entire budget from what we had already had, going before we suspended. We also cut our own pay by 10%, which 10% of $17,000 a year is not much, but it was just to show that everybody that we're all still in this together. We're all going to have to take a bite and take a cut, because it's not fair to the taxpayers of our state, to get left with the burden. All the state agencies, you also got to share in the burden as well. In the end, we were committed to balance the budget, and like I said, we all had to reduce our own pay by 10%. But also at the end of that session, I was happy to get Senate Bill 43, my bill that I've actually worked on it for a few years now, but we finally got it passed the House and the Senate and the House, and the governor signed into law. And Senate Bill 43 was the bill that allows Dalton Utilities and the city of Dalton to have control of their own destiny as far as issuing revenue bonds, and when it comes to power transmission needs. And so, you could already do that for gas. We could already do that for cable. We could all do it. All was the only reason. But if you're going to do anything with power, you got to go to Atlanta and go through the legislature. So we fixed that in the law, that so that Dalton could have that access and be able to have control of their own destiny with that. The other bill that I'm probably the most happy and proud of, and it's literally because it doesn't even have my name on it. Nowhere is my name on it, but my fingerprints are all over it. And that's because during the session we had Representative Chairman Mandy Ballinger. She's chairman of the House Juvenile Justice Committee, and that's how she and I had become friends, because of my background in 30 years working with the Department of Juvenile Justice. People who misdemeanor have been charged with a misdemeanor, that after 5 years of having no new charges, after their probation, whatever was over, after 5 years of no new charges, they could come back to the court and have the court have that taken off their record. And this is really a great piece of legislation, because how many people when we're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, we're not thinking with the mind of an adult, and all it takes is one stupid mistake, and that's on your record for the rest of your life. It hinders your ability to raise money. To earn money, to raise, to provide for your family for a lifetime because of one mistake. And so Mandy actually found out during the session that she had, and I just asked y'all to keep Mandy Ballinger in your prayers, but she found out she had stage 4 breast cancer. And so I decided to take the bill up in the Senate. And so I knew that it was just a couple of days before crossover day, and we didn't have enough time to get a bill through the Senate, drop a bill in the Senate, get it through a committee, and get it to the floor for a vote within 2 days. So we started looking for a vehicle bill, and I found a bill, Senate Bill 288, and Democrat Tanya Anderson from Atlanta, it's her bill, and it was sitting in Judiciary. And quite honestly, it was probably just going to stay there in Judiciary and probably wouldn't see the light of day. So I quickly went to talk to Tanya and said, I need your help, and I'll help you if you'll help me. And so we sat down and we worked it out together, and she agreed to let me take Mandy's language that had already been vetted for the last year and a half and just completely replace her bill and the language in her bill, so that this bill could move forward in the Senate as a brand new Senate bill. It passed this, it went to, so then I called the Judiciary Chairman and asked him if he would move that bill forward so we could do that in committee. He did, we did. Bill finally went to the Senate. Tanya Anderson presented her bill. I went to the well and spoke to her bill to get the Republicans on board. It passed the Senate unanimously and then went to the House, passed the House, and came back with a few minor changes. And we passed it again with a few minor changes. And I just went over to Senator Anderson and gave her a hug, and I said, just want you to know, we just broke every mold. We worked across the Capitol, we worked across the aisle, we broke every mold just only for one reason, to make sure that good legislation went forward. And I said, and I just told her, I said, this is the way this is supposed to work. And it just, so I just literally, I'd say that because one of the things I've always guided me in politics, and in life. You know, I just look at what we've been through in the last year and just looking forward to what we've got coming in the future. And I love history for the very sake of, as I told my probation kids for 30 years, I said, you know, you have to take account for your yesterday before you can adequately navigate your tomorrow. And that's true for individuals, and it's true for nations too. It's true for society. It's just taking account for your yesterday so you can navigate your tomorrows. And so I look at that and I see this past year, the biggest concern I've had is literally, I pray moreover for families to be restored, for the sense of family to be restored back to our community, and people, you know, having spent time with your family, maybe the family would come back to be the pinnacle of everything in a community. And also just for people and understanding, you know, the great thing about looking back at history is you can understand that the lessons just of, for example, the greatest generation. I read about the greatest generation all the time, the World War II, the Depression generation, then the World War II generation. And I tell people all the time, I said, you know, this generation, people have written books about, but you really don't have to write a whole book, in my view, to why they were the greatest generation. They were simply the generation that overcame the worst economic period in a nation's history in the Depression. Then they turned around and got slapped in the face with a war to end all wars. A great war, a world war like the world had never known. I said the men went off to war, the women went to the fields and the factories for the first time, and then during all that strife, it wasn't necessarily their achievement that made them great. It was the fact that you can't imagine a single solitary soul of that generation ever uttering the words, yeah, but what's in this for me? Nobody thought that way. Everybody's focus was the next generation and what was going to be left behind for that generation, the generations that would follow. And that's a word that our founders in this nation often used, was the word posterity. And understanding the word posterity is slam full of hope, because that's all there is to guide it. It's just if your focus is your posterity, then you're only guided in your hope, but never your want, because there's nothing in it for you. And that's what that generation did. So I just hope to come here today and just say, let's stay hopeful as we go forward. I mean, I could tell you right now, normally during this time, we're all focusing on what bills are going to be coming forward, what we got, you know. There's not been any of that rhetoric within the Senate caucus or within the Senate. I mean, it's all been focused on, we're still flying by the seat of our pants from one crisis to another, and now we got the election and everything that's going on in our state. So I just encourage you, as I encourage myself and I encourage my family, take account for what you're thankful for. Every day, just pause for a moment and take account for what you're most thankful for in life. And let yourself be filled with hope. Because when we focus on what we're thankful for, we're never thinking about what we want for. And that, to me, is honestly our best path forward as a people in this state. I thank you for letting me be here today, and God bless you. And if you ever need anything of me, look me up and call me. I am blessed that I get to do this job full time, that I am retired. You know, I'm the only person that ever retired and then took a $17,000 a year job. But my wife is gracious in the fact that, you know, our house is paid for and we live in the same place we've lived for 30 years. And so I get to focus and do this and help people in the community full time. So if you ever need anything, don't hesitate, give me a call and I'll come running to help you. Yes, sir.
So do your boots match today?
My boots match?
Yeah.
I'm wearing black boots.
Okay, well, you told me the last time you got up and you didn't want to wake your wife, and you realized when you got to the Capitol, you had on two different type boots.
Well, you know, that.
When you got to
No. I do that in the morning. I get dressed in the dark a lot. When that was back for this past session was my first time staying down in Atlanta. I was driving back ever since I got elected. I was driving back and forth every day. And as I got 55 years old, I realized I'm getting too old to do that. And so, but yeah, I was getting up at 3:30 and hitting the road by 5:30, having a little devotion time, and then getting dressed in the dark every morning, so I had to always set my clothes out the night before so that I wouldn't reach in the closet and grab one. I just kept thinking, I'm gonna show up in the Capitol and have one brown boot, one brown cowboy boot on and one black cowboy boot on. And I tell you, that's why a lot of legislators wear cowboy boots, because they're easy to put on in the dark. I mean, we're all getting dressed early in the morning and having to get to America, so. Any other questions?
Pretty much covers it.
Well, thank y'all for letting me be here today.
Senator Payne, thank you for being with us today. Expiring words. We'll end with the pledge to allegiance and the four-way test. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. But the say to do is the truth, is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? All right, next meeting is November the 24th. Immediate past District Governor Don Martin will be talking about the Rotary Foundation.
Hey, Dick.